Hello everyone, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Michael and today we're going to be making strawberry rhubarb pie and we're going to be making our pie crust from scratch. If you want to use store-bought pie crust, you definitely can do that. This will be in a 9-inch deep dish pan, so take that into consideration when you buy your store-bought pie crust, that we will be needing 2 of these. So if you get the pie itself in the shelf on the store, you'll need to get another one of those where you can roll out and we can cut the lattice for the top. So you'll need 2 of these. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to give you the measurements for one. I'm going to make one on camera and then I will make the other one off camera and show you how this is made. So we're going to start with a 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, and that is 150 grams if we're measuring it that way. And I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I went to measure it on my scale and it was not even enough in there that it would even show up on it what it was, so I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now I'm just going to take a little whisk and I'm just going to kind of whisk that together to get that salt incorporated into that flour, and we'll set that to the side. With our butter, I've got 1 stick of unsalted butter, and that is 113 grams or 8 tablespoons or 4 ounces of this that I've got. So what we're going to do with this, you want all your ingredients as cold as you can get them. I just pulled this out of the refrigerator, so I know this is nice and cold, and then we'll be using water as our other ingredient, and we'll be putting some ice in that to keep that really cold as well. So what we're going to do when we start with our butter is we're going to take it and we're going to cut it in little cubes. So we're going to cut it in maybe a little bit less than 1/2 inch slices on this. And then that we're going to cut those into 1/4 pieces like that. And we'll put that into our flour. I'm going to go ahead and work the rest of this and cut all of these into quarters. All right, I've got all of my butter cut up in little cubes now. We're going to put the rest of that into the flour. We'll set this to the side. We're going to take our clean hands now and we're going to go in and just give that a little toss around, get the flour on the outside of it. All right, now that we've done that, we're going to take our fingers, and you want to take your thumb and your forefinger and you just want to press the butter out. And we're going to do that to all the pieces, and we're going to make sure that we get flour on the outside of all of those pieces. All right, now that we've got all of our big pieces, we've got flour on those, we're just going to take it and we're just going to keep pressing it with our hands and make sure we get that flour and that butter incorporated together. Now you can definitely do that if you've got one of those little tools that you can use that incorporates your shortening or your butter into your flour. If you've got one of those, you can definitely do that. I'll put a link in the description box below what that is. I just like to get in here with your hands, and that way you've got control of, you can feel when you're getting close to be done. There's also a method where you can do it in a food processor. That works just as well also. I just like it with the hands. It goes fairly quickly, and you can really control with your fingers what we're doing. So what we want this to be is we want it to kind of look like sand a little bit, but we don't want it all incorporated. We want some chunks in there because we like that nice flaky crust on our pie crust. And so we want to leave some of the chunks in there, but we want to incorporate it about 80% into the flour. So we'll just keep working and I'll show you what this looks like when it gets done. All right, this looks really good now. We've got it incorporated in there. You can see it in my hand. Most of it's in there. We still have a few chunks in there. And like I said earlier, we definitely want to leave a few of those pieces in there. And that kind of just melts when it cooks. It needs those nice pockets of that flaky crust that we love. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this alone. Might drop it back in the refrigerator just for a few seconds while I get my water together, and that way it stays nice and cool. And I'm going to grab my measuring cup and we'll come back and we'll put our water together. Stick with me. All right, I am back now and I've got my water, I've got my 1/4 cup, and I've got some ice cubes in it so that is staying nice and cold. So depending on your house, if your house is really warm, you might need a little bit more. If your house is really dry, or if you live in a drier climate and your flour is dry, you might need a little bit more water. So now we're just going to add that in. I'm not going to put the ice cubes in it. We'll leave those behind. We'll put just a little bit in there, not all of it. I want to take my dough hook here and I'm just going to kind of go in and give that a little bit of a mix through. It's the same principle when you're making biscuits. You really don't want to work that gluten in there to get that nice tough. You don't want that. So just put that together so that it just kind of comes together just a little bit. We'll put some more water in it. I'm going to put the last of my water in. All right, so you can see that I've got that all together now, so I'm going to set this to the side. And I've got one of these silicone baker's mats. I really like this silicone baker mat a lot. And we'll take just a little bit of flour and we're going to put that onto our mat here. And we're going to take our dough and we're going to put our dough out onto our mat. So with this mat, what we're going to do is we're going to let the mat work for us. So we're just going to come together with that flour just like that and just kind of press it together on the top and then turn it 90 degrees, and we'll do it the same thing here. And then we'll just keep turning it around. You just want to kind of make sure that it gets incorporated. We're not kneading this. We're not going to be kneading this at all. We want to make sure that all that gets together and we've got a nice form of dough here. We don't want it sticky. It's not a sticky dough. And I can tell that I've got this mixed together very nicely. It's holding together very well. Just going to kind of give that a little bit of a toss around just like that. All right, now I'm gonna go grab some cling film and I'll be right back. All right, now that we've got our dough here, I wanted to show you, see any of those big pieces. I hope you can see this on the camera. We've got some nice chunks of butter still in there. That's what we really want. We want that nice and fluffy. We haven't kneaded that. We've just given it a couple of turns around there to get that incorporated. And then we'll just take a piece of cling film. And we'll take that and we'll give that a little bit of a wrap. And we're going to seal that in just like that. Pull that top down on it pretty tight on the top. Make sure we get all the air out of it. And there we go. This is your dough. This is one layer of it. We're going to put this in the refrigerator and we want this to rest for about an hour. Or you can make it a day ahead of time if you want to and you've got it. And when you get ready to make your pie, I'll explain to you what we'll do with that. So we're going to drop this in the refrigerator for about an hour. And then once we come back, I will show you what we're going to do next. I'm going to go ahead and make my second one and I'll be back in just a minute. We need 2 of these. I am back and we're ready to start working on our dough now. So I've got my 9-inch deep dish pie pan here. So I'm going to set that to the side. I've got a roller pin that we'll be using and I got my dough here. So if you make your dough the day ahead of time, you might want to bring it out about a half an hour before it's time to start working with it. So it can kind of warm up a little bit because it won't be able to do too much with it being cold. All it'll want to do at that point is just kind of crack. If it gets too warm, you might want to pop it back in the refrigerator once you start rolling on it, and that way it can kind of get hard a little bit so you can work with it. And I've got one of these seal mats here that we've got. So I'm going to take just a little bit of flour and put on my seal mat here, and we're going to get this rolled out so we can get it put into the bottom of my baking pan here. I did have the second pie crust out of the refrigerator, but it felt like it was getting a little bit too soft and I'm not quite ready to work on that yet. So I just popped it back in there just for a few minutes and we'll get to start working on that as soon as we get through with this. I'm going to hang on to my plastic. I don't know that I'm going to use it or not, but you never know. You might want to cover it back up and put it back in the refrigerator if it feels like it's a little bit too soft, and that way you've already got some there ready to go. So I'm going to put just a little bit of flour onto my rolling pin here, and we're going to roll this out. And that's a 9-inch pie dish, so take into consideration maybe you've got 2-inch sidewalls here. Let's roll this out to about 12 inches and see where this goes. You can always roll it out a little bit further if you don't think it's going to be enough, but I think 12 inches is going to be nice. And what's nice about this mat here is it's got markings on it too, so you can use that for that. So I think I've got a little bit too much flour here. You can just wipe that off, and we just want to keep turning this about 90 degrees every time until we can get it rolled out. Just kind of go from the center and work your way out, and that way you'll get an even pie crust when you're working it out. And we'll turn it over just a little bit and work on this side. Doesn't take much when you get your pie crust out of the refrigerator and it warms back up a little bit to get it to do anything. I grabbed my little brush here. I'm going to brush some of that flour off the top of it so you can see what's under there with this butter. So we've got some nice big pieces of butter there that you can see, and that's what we want in that. When that gets to cooking really nicely, it'll open up those pockets and you'll get that nice flaky crust on that. So we're almost where this needs to be. Maybe we need to go in this direction and that direction just a little bit. And I believe that that should get us. All right, so I'm going to take this and wipe some of this flour off the top. Now we'll take our rolling pin and we'll just roll it up on it so we can get it into our pie pan. We'll bring this up here and we'll put this in. All right, with your pie crust, you definitely don't want to distort it. So if it's not in the right place, as you can see here, mine is not in the right place, you want to move it. You don't want to push it, because then you will take what you've just worked and where you've got nice even spacing all around. So we're just going to kind of work that around until we get that to where we want it. And if you get it bunched up here, which is nice about this, you can just take it with your fingers and just push it around and get it where you want it to be. All right, so now that we've got that down into that pie pan, that looks really good, we'll just take a knife and just kind of go around the outside of it there and just cut off that little bit of extra that might be hanging down, or you can use your fingers and just break it off. All right, we got all of that removed now. We didn't have hardly any waste at all with that. And we'll just kind of push that up to the side just to make sure we get that on the edge. Any place that you might want to fix now, you can go in and do that. And I've got my cling film here. I don't believe I'm going to have enough. I'm going to grab me another little piece. All right, I've got me a second piece of cling film here. I'm going to put that over the top of this. And I'm going to put this back in the refrigerator. I want this to stay as cool and as cold as I can keep it. And with that, I'll put that in the refrigerator and I'll grab the top and we'll start cutting our lattice work. Stick with me. Now that we've got our pie crust into our pie pan or pie dish, I put that in the refrigerator and let's start working on our lattice for the top. You can really see how pretty this dough is here with these nice butter flakes that we've got on it. So I'm going to put just a little bit more flour on my board here. I'm not going to put as much as I did before. And we're going to do the same thing with this. We're going to roll this out till it gets to where it needs to be. And I think this is a little too cold, so I'm going to take this and just put this over the top of it and just let it sit here for maybe 5 minutes to warm up just a little bit more, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back, and we'll let this sit out here, and let's see how this is. Oh yeah, it's doing a lot better with that. So let's work this around till we get this into the shape we want. We want this to be kind of in a circle, and we'll look at that at about 12-inch circle on that. So we'll just keep working that around just like we did the other, till we get the desired shape that we want. All right, that looks pretty good right there where that is. I'm going to roll this up on here because I'm going to now need to cut this, and I don't want to cut it on this mat because it plainly says not to use any scissors on there, so we'll just remove that just like that. We'll put down just a little bit of flour on my board here. I kind of put this into a square because I'm going to cut my lattice, and then we can always take off what we don't need of it. Okay, so you can do one of two things. You can just eyeball it, or you can use some type of a tool like this where you can kind of measure it and gauge it. I've got a pizza cutter here. We can use that also. So what we can do is I'm going to cut this edge off here so that I can get a square piece on the side. And then we want to cut these about 1 inch wide, I'm thinking. So let's see, we got about 12 inches here, so we should get about 12 pieces out of that, but you can just eyeball this. It doesn't have to be exact. And once you get these cut, you can put these onto another pan here, and I'll get ready to put that in the refrigerator when I get ready to do this. So, all right, I'm going to continue to cut across this, and I'll be back in just a minute, and I'll show you once we get to the other side how many we get out of it. All right, I've got my strips now cut from my lattice. I got 13 pieces out of that, so I've got it here. All right, so I'm going to put this cling film back over the top of it. I'm going to set this back in the refrigerator so it can stay nice and cool. And while that's cooling down again, I'm going to go grab my strawberries and my rhubarb, and we're going to get ready to start making our filling for our pie. Stick with me. Now let's get started working on our ingredients that we're going to be putting inside of our strawberry and rhubarb pie. So I've got my rhubarb here. I've got it washed and ready to be cut up. And I've got my strawberries over here, and I've got them in a water vinegar solution just to checking to make sure that there's nothing in them. And I did use some of my homemade vinegar. If you haven't seen that video on how to make the apple vinegar, I'll put that link in the description box below. And I've also got a video on my channel how I clean these. So if you want to go check that out, definitely go check that out. So this is going to be really easy now with the ingredients on this. So we've got 1 pound of our rhubarb, or 454 grams, and 1 pound of our strawberries, 454 grams. If you want to use a little bit more strawberries, you can. You know, if you've ever had rhubarb, they're a little on the tart side. So definitely if you want more of that. I kind of like the combination of the both. I remember when I was a kid, my uncle would always raise rhubarb in his little garden that he had there, and they always made these strawberry rhubarb pies when we were growing up, because strawberries were really prevalent in the area where I grew up in. So it was just a great combination to have these. So definitely, if you have never had rhubarb strawberry pie or strawberry rhubarb pie, definitely give this a try. I know you're going to love it. So while my strawberries are soaking over here, let's go ahead and start working on our rhubarb. And I'm just going to take it and I'm just going to cut the ends of it off. And I did put in just a little bit more on the weight side there just to compensate for the, cutting up of things. If I see some bad spots on it, I'll give that a cut. So we'll definitely just cut that down the middle. We want these cut to where they're about a little bit less than a 1/2 inch a piece. So definitely by cutting it in the middle, and then just kind of go ahead and giving it a good little dice through all the way around. All right, that's one of them cut there, and you can see what those look like. They're nice, even-sized pieces. So we're going to put that into this bowl over here, and I'm going to work on the rest of these, and I'll be back in just a minute. All right, I've got all of my rhubarb cut up now, and I'm going to set that to the side. And looking at my strawberries here, I don't see anything in those, so I'm just going to take a paper towel and just kind of dry off a few of them here, and we'll get ready to start working on these. All right, I did get the last of my strawberries dried off now, and I wanted you to see the water. There's a lot of debris and stuff in here. So definitely, if you want to, give your strawberries a good wash on those so you don't have anything in there that you don't want in your pie. So I'm gonna go ahead and transfer my rhubarb to my bigger bowl that I've got here, and that'll make way for my strawberries when I get ready to cut those up. So we're gonna take these, and we're just gonna take the crown off of them here, just like that. And I've got a strawberry core here. I made a video on how to use one of these. I'll show you here briefly how that works. Definitely makes this a lot easier when you do it that way. All right, now that we've got the core out of it, we want those kind of in the same size that those are. So if you want to cut these into quarters like that, and then just kind of come back and give them a cut like that, that's the kind of shape that I'm going to be looking for mine. If you want them a little bit bigger, you definitely can. This is completely up to you. So I'm going to continue to go through here and take these caps off these, core these strawberries, and if there's any places on them that you want, we'll cut those off. So I'm going to continue to work on these, and I'll be back in just a minute. All right, I've got my strawberries cut up now, and I've got my other ingredients here ready to go. So let's go ahead and transfer our strawberries into this larger bowl here with our rhubarb and put that together. Now I'm going to take my dry ingredients and mix those together before I put those in there. So I've got 3/4 of a cup of sugar, or 150 grams. We'll put that in just like that. I've got a 1/4 cup of cornstarch, or you might call it corn flour where you're at, so we'll put that in there like that. And I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We'll add that in just like that. And I've got the zest of 1 lemon. This is optional if you don't want this. You can actually use the zest of an orange, would be really good with that too. So if you want to put that in with your dry ingredients, you can do that now, or you can wait and mix it in there. It's completely up to you. So let's give this a good mix through here. And I'm going to go ahead and add the lemon zest to that right there. Now that I've got my dry ingredients mixed together, we'll bring those over and we're going to put those in with our strawberries and our rhubarb. And with that, we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. I like the flavor of that. If you want to add the orange juice, if you did the orange peel, you could definitely do the orange juice as well. And then I've got a teaspoon of vanilla. We'll add that in. We'll take a spatula and we'll just give that a good mix through. All right, now that I've got that mixed in, I'm just going to put a cover over. I'm going to put one of my little baking covers here that I use when I make bread. All right, now we're going to let this sit for about 15 to 30 minutes. And while this is resting and getting all that sugar into those strawberries and that rhubarb, we're going to go get our lattice out of the refrigerator and let that come back up so we can work it again. So while this is resting, go get your lattice and we'll come back and we'll get started on our pie. Leave your pie crust in the refrigerator. You don't need that at this point. Just your lattice, because we'll be able to manipulate that to get it on the top. Stick with me. I am back. It's been 30 minutes now, and I've got my pie crust out of the refrigerator. I've got just a little bit of cornstarch here. I'm going to put this across the bottom. This just adds just a little bit because the strawberries are going to be really, really wet when they cook, and they're going to put off a lot of moisture. So I'm just going to put just a little bit of this cornstarch across the bottom. Don't have to be a lot. And that'll just kind of help it along just a little bit. Now let's grab our strawberries and our rhubarb and put that into our pie crust now. So I've got just a little bit of a spoon here. I'm going to take the actual ingredients. Let's just give that a little bit of a stir around. I hear some of that sugar on the bottom. We want to make sure we get that all mixed together. But you can see how much liquid is in here already. And with that extra little bit of that starch on the bottom will really help that out. So let's go ahead and put our filling in on the top here. This smells really good. All right, now that we got all those in there, we'll go ahead and add this little bit of juice that we've got left in the bottom here. Now we'll take our spatula and just kind of spread that out evenly around on that crust. That looks really good now. Now we've got our strips here that we'll be putting our lattice work on the top. And what I'm going to do now for the lattice work is I'm just going to run some of this cream. I've got half and half cream here. You can use egg white and a little bit of water if you want to do that. I'm just going to put the cream here on the sides, and this is going to kind of act as our glue for our lattice work on the top. All right, now that we got that on there, let's pick our strips that we've got here, and we want to get the longest one first, and it looks like this one here is going to be one of the longer ones, and we'll just run that right through the middle, just like that, and then we'll grab one of the other ones here, and we'll come along right beside it, and we'll just keep working our way to the edge. All right, so now I'm going to turn the pie so that the strips are facing me here, and we're going to take every other one, and we're going to pull it back about halfway back, and that way we can start with our lattice in the middle and get it the crisscross that we want. So we want to grab the longest one here, and we'll put that right here, and then we'll bring these back down again right over the top. And then we'll take the other ones that we didn't pull and pull them back, and that will create that crisscross that we're looking for. And I'll grab one of the shorter ones here for the side. And then the last one, we'll go back to the original 3, and I'll grab one of these shorter ones. And we'll put that just like that. Now we'll turn our pie completely around, and now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to start with the one that's on the bottom here and work our way around. Take one of the longer ones here and put it in the middle. And then we'll take the other 3 and pull them up like that. And the last one we'll do, we'll pull up this one and that one, and we'll put this one. I know it's a little long, but that's okay. Now, if you've got some kitchen shears, you can go back and cut those off like that if you want to, or just pull them off with your finger. And we want to press that down right on the edge. And I'm going to continue to work all the way around. We want to get sure that we glue that down, if you want to call it that, right there on that edge, all those pieces. And I'll be right back. All right, so I've got all my lattice on the top done here, and I wanted to show you an optional thing here. I've got 2 tablespoons of butter. Before you put your lattice on, you can break that up and put that on the top. That adds a little bit more flavor to it, and then you can put your lattice work on the top. But this is completely optional. If you want to put this in, you can. I did not put it in this one today. Now that I've got all the pieces cut, I'm just going to come in with my finger and just go through and press that down so that that all gets sealed right there and it doesn't come off. All right, now that we've got that done, we'll take some more of our cream and we're going to put this on the top just like that. Just kind of brush it over. If you got your egg wash, you can do the same thing with your egg wash. All right, so now that we've got that on it, we're going to take some sugar here and we're just going to sprinkle some sugar over the top of it. This is a turbinado sugar here. If you've got the other kind of sprinkling sugars, you can definitely use any of that. So just give that a little bit of a shake across the top of there and put some of this sugar on the top. Again, this is optional as well. If you don't want to put this on the top, you don't have to. All right, now that we've got our sugar on top of our pie, I'm going to take a couple of pieces of this cling film and put back across the top of it there. And I'm going to set this back in the refrigerator so this can kind of cool down just a little bit here so that that lattice work on the top gets back cool again. So while that's back in the refrigerator cooling down, I'm going to go ahead and turn my oven on to 400. And by the time the oven gets heated up, the pie will be chilled down, and so they'll be coming out at the same time. So when your oven reaches 400, go ahead and pull your pie out. And we're going to put it on a baking sheet. And I've got the sheet covered with aluminum foil. This is there to help you with the cleanup. Because when this bakes, the strawberries and things are going to create a lot of moisture and things, and it might bubble over on the sides, and you don't want that in your oven. So definitely put that on a baking sheet with some foil. It'll help you with the cleanup if there's any of it that does come over the side. So I'm going to put this in the oven on 400. And we're going to cook it for 45 minutes. So you'll be able to tell when it's about done. And you see, if you look in there, you'll see the strawberries and the ingredients on the inside bubbling. At about 20 to 25 minutes, if you want to, take a look at it and see if the edges might be getting a little too brown. I've got one of these silicone covers, and what that does, it just kind of goes across the top and covers the pie itself. Or if you don't have one of these, then you can use some aluminum foil and just kind of make a shape that goes around it so that your crust doesn't get as brown before the rest of the pie gets done. So check that at about 20 to 25 minutes. When you see it where it's gotten brown where you want it, just put you some foil around the outside of it. You don't have to cover the whole thing, just kind of cover just the outside of it. And that way it'll keep that crust from getting really, really dark. 400 degrees, 45 minutes. I'll see you when it's done. Just keep a watch on it because everybody's stuff's going to cook a little bit differently. So if yours is starting to brown a little bit sooner before that 20 minutes, if you know your stuff cooks fast, then check on it a little bit sooner then. So I'll see you back when this is done. Stick with me. All right, I am back and my pie is done now. I wanted to show you what it looks like. It did cook for 45 minutes. I did set 3 alarms on it. At 20 minutes, I went in and turned the pie completely around 180. That way, if one side was cooking faster than the other, that we'd make sure that it was cooking all the way through. And then I went in at 30 minutes and I put my little shields here around my pie because I didn't want my crust on the edges there to get really, really, really brown. And then at 45 minutes, I took it out. So it's nice and bubbled up. I didn't have any accidents here on the side, but that's a good thing because we didn't want that to happen anyway. So now we need to let this sit. If you cut into this right now, it will be nothing but a soupy mess that what you'll have. So that will not be a good thing. We want this to set up. So you need to let this cool for at least 4 or 5 hours before you cut into it. And that way the cornstarch that we've got in there will have time to help everything get settled in. You'll get the juices from the strawberries and everything will get all mixed in together with that and be a nice pie. So don't be tempted by this smell because it smells absolutely delicious. To go ahead and cut it now, let this cool down. If you need to let it sit overnight and then have it the next day, that would be even better. So let it cool. We'll come back. We'll take a look at it. I'll get a slice of it and we'll give it a big taste test. Stick with me. I am back and I've got my pie here now. It is cooled down. It smells absolutely delicious. I hate to cut into this. It is so pretty, but we're going to cut into it and give it a taste because I know it's going to be delicious from the smell of it. So I've got my knife here and let's figure out where we're going to cut into the center of this. We'll cut right down into the middle. Make sure we get that crust on the bottom. Look at that. That is an absolutely beautiful piece of pie, and you can see how that has nicely set up in that. So I'm going to get my plate over here, and just remember, while it's still hot, when you pull it out of the oven, do not attempt to cut it because all you'll have is just a soupy mess on that. So let it cool down. If you want to make it the night before, you can, or if you just need to let it sit for 4 or 5 hours until it really cools down. I want you to take a look at that, how pretty that is. Those strawberries and that rhubarb in there. This is absolutely beautiful, and the smell of this is absolutely incredible also. So let's give this a taste and see what this tastes like. Get some of that crust on there. If you were here, there wouldn't be any left for you because this is absolutely delicious. I'm going to sit down here, and I hope I don't eat this in one setting, but I very well could. This is absolutely the right amount of sugar. The strawberry is coming through this. The rhubarb is absolutely delicious. It gives that little bit of a tartness to it. That crust is absolutely incredible. I know you're going to love this. If you've never had a strawberry rhubarb pie, definitely give this a try. And if you do give it a try, I want to hear from you in the comment section how yours turned out. And if you've made strawberry rhubarb pies in the past and you do something a little different, let me know in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you because I'm always looking to learn new things. If you like this content, maybe you might consider giving me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And check out one of these other 2 videos over here on the side. You might find something else you like. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in my next video. Give this strawberry rhubarb pie a try. I know you're going to love it. Bye-bye now. This is a winner.